Let's talk about who had the best draft in the NFL. I'll take Chicago because of the brilliance of Caleb Williams. A lot of people think he's got a lot of Patrick Mahomes in him, but he's going to be surrounded by a ton of skill talent. And I think that's the unique thing. If you add that quarterback, and then they went and got Rome Odunze from the University of Washington to go with Keenan Allen, to go with DJ Moore, to go with three running backs. Hell, that might be the best offense the Bears have had since whenever.
Yeah.
Chicago's never had a 4,000-yard passing quarterback in the history of the franchise. Never. Going back to the 1920s.
Really?
Yeah. Well, you're a big Bobby Douglas fan. Let me throw it into the ground. Let me throw it in the sidelines, overthrow the guy. I mean, they've not had a lot of great quarterbacks. Jim McMahon, persona as he wasn't a great quarterback. So they think suddenly that they may have an awful lot of firepower. And when you got Caleb and now you got three deep at wide receiver and they got a pass catching tight end, you got three different running backs, and they were pretty productive last year with Justin Fields. Suddenly the Bears look different. So I think the Bears had a really great draft. I give Philadelphia a lot of credit. You know, they had a really crap finish to the end of the football season. And a lot of unrest, players, coaches, Howie Roseman, the general manager. They made 9 trades during the draft. They traded down, then they traded up, then they traded down with other picks. When they got done, I thought they fixed an awful lot of what was wrong last year. And they got 2 cornerbacks right out of the gate that I think are going to be huge difference makers for Chicago. One kid was one of the best cornerbacks in the country, played at Tiny Toledo in the Mid-American Conference and stayed there. And I've seen video on him, on Mitchell, and can he run, and he is rangy. And so I think the Eagles had themselves a really good draft. They also picked up, what's his name? I got a block from cornerback from the University of Iowa. Very good cover guy, can play corner, can play safety. So I think Philadelphia did really well. I gave Pittsburgh a really high draft grade of an A. They've been trying to fix their offense. Well, obviously, they went into the marketplace and they got the 2 quarterbacks. But what they did in about a 14-hour span, they went out and got a starting offensive tackle, Trey Fontenot, from the University of Washington, who's really good. They got Zach Frazier, a beast of an offensive center from West Virginia. They got one of the, quote, other wide receivers from Michigan, Roman Wilson, who caught a bunch of big plays in the Big Ten championship game and obviously the playoffs. And they got a really good linebacker. They think he's an inside version of what T.J. Watt is outside. His name is Peyton Wilson. So suddenly, I mean, Pittsburgh, they got probably 4 starters out of that draft. So I was really impressed there. Rams, they had 11 picks. They wound up with a total of 9 players, but what a job they did. I projected they were going to take Florida State's Jared Verse with the first-round pick. They did. Then they traded up in the second round, and they took his teammate, Braden Fisk, massive athletic defensive tackle. So they got a pass rusher, and they got an heir apparent replacement for Aaron Donald, who retired. They got edge speed, and they got toughness. And then they went into the running back core, and they added another running back that will be a third down pass catcher. So I think the Rams had a really good draft. I gave the Chargers a letter grade of A. They had distinct holes that needed to be filled. They kept their picks, and they went out, and they got skilled players. I think they got themselves probably 3 starters on opening day. I was very impressed with what the Chargers did. Obviously, there's no doubt that they got themselves a stud in Joe Alt. There's no doubt that Ladd McConkey from Georgia is fast. He's tough. He's got great hands. He's a physical blocker downfield. He's going to play a lot, maybe at multi-positions for them. And then, they went out and got a linebacker. The leading tackler at Michigan, Junior Colson, leading tackler 2 years in a row, 297 tackles playing for Jim Harbaugh. So I thought that they did a really, really good job there. And then the Raiders. And the Raiders have got holes lots of places, and they tried hard to trade up, and they could not trade up. And then the Raiders just turned around and kept their picks, and they just kept drafting guys. And I thought getting Brock Bowers adds another ingredient because he is a pass catcher as a tight end. He might not be the best tight end maybe coming into the NFL, but he's good. Is he Kelsey? I don't know. He's probably more athletic than Kelsey. He's not the blocker, the tough guy that Kittle is, but he's still really good. But getting Brock Bowers, I thought, was just huge for the Raiders. And then they went out and got maybe the best center in the country, kid out of the University of Oregon by the name of Johnson. And they've got holes in their offensive line. Then they went and got a right tackle, and they got a hole at right tackle for their third-round pick. So I think Tom Telesco, despite the pressure to go get a quarterback, said, we're going to take the best players we can at the slots we got. And I think they got at least 3 starters. I think they had good hauls. So, John, agree or disagree with me? How I rated them? You're out there in left field. What's your opinion?
Well, just talk about 3 teams, the Bears, the Eagles, and the Raiders.
Yes.
The Bears, I got all these skill guys, but how many times do we see these quarterbacks flame out? Like only about a third of them actually become successful in the NFL. Do you have confidence Caleb Williams is going to be the real deal?
He's done everything, what he did at Oklahoma, what he did at USC in a bad situation. Now, they'll have to refine him a little bit. They're not going to want him to run as much as he ran at Southern Cal because you get your quarterback busted up. But his ability to run and the threat to run just makes him a really dangerous guy. And he's accurate, and he's got a gun for an arm, and he's a firebrand as a leader. So he is the guy. But the most important thing, John, we've talked in the past historically, that what you run into is bad team, really bad team. Carolina Panther bad team. They get Bryce Young and he gets killed. Well, this is not a bad team because Chicago is now traded for 2-star wide receivers. They drafted Cole Kmet, tight end, from a year ago. They're 3 deep at running back. And they got Caleb Williams going to be planted in the middle of all those skilled people. Wow. This is not the Carolina Panthers that he's going to. He's going to the Bears, who've got, I think, a lot of weapons around him. By the way, the Bears kick your ass on defense. So suddenly Chicago is going to be very, very good in the NFC Central.
Yeah, going to be must-see TV, I think, in the NFC. The Eagles, Roseman always drafts well, doesn't he? Yeah. I mean, did he raid Georgia again this year?
No, he went other places. He went to Toledo. I thought he did a really good job. Now, there's some internal chemistry issues there with that coach and what happened at the end of the season and how really badly they played at the end. And whether guys are distracted, guys didn't play hard, there's going to have to be some maturity that's going to have to be instilled in that locker room. But again, Roseman just continues to stockpile players. He went out and he got 2 of the best college cornerbacks there are. So I thought that was a positive. Your spin on the Chargers and the Rams?
Well, the Chargers, I like the Joe Alt pick. I think that was a terrific move right there. Funny, McConkey as a receiver. Remember there was a McConkey with the Giants? Like
Phil McConkey, way back then from Navy.
Yeah, was he like in the 80s or 90s? It's just kind of a fun name to say. So good, they got another wide receiver, filled some holes. That sounds great. I'm looking forward to Harbaugh and what he brings to the table. Man, freaking Sean McVay, man, that guy is just always kind of on the fringe, but getting things done, so that's impressive if you're an LA Ram fan. But I want to just about the Raiders is, remember when John Cooper was here from our lads, he said that he was getting vibes that the Raiders were like, okay, with their quarterback of Aiden O'Connell and Minshew. But they didn't pick a quarterback at all. Didn't that surprise you in the first round?
No, because they tried, and I was told by a different NFL player personnel guy, one of the reasons there were few trades at the top outside of what the Vikings did is that the price to go up to the top 3, way too steep. And the teams that were trading back, geez, if I'm going to go from 3 to 12 or 3 to 15, that's too far a drop. Mm-hmm. So the mechanics of the deals didn't really work out. The Vikings only traded one of their number ones up a couple slots just to get the quarterback that they wanted in getting J.J. McCarthy. So that's why everybody projected there are going to be a hell of a lot of deals, but price to get up there was way too steep. Price to length you had to drop down if you made the trade too far. And there were some stupid things that happened. The Chargers confirmed New England called them on the clock and offered 3 for 5. Or New England offered 3, give us Justin Herbert. Chargers are not
Justin Herbert.
Not going to do that. And then Minnesota called them at the last minute and said, we're willing to go to 5, or would you be willing to trade us Justin Herbert? And we'll give you our 11 and 23. Chargers said, no, not trading Justin Herbert. Not going to create another hole, a massive hole, or crater on a roster that's already got a lot of holes on it.
Yeah, that's the whole reason Harbaugh's here.
That's right. So that's where we are. So that was the good draft. Let's